First and Now is brought to you by World Vision Canada, national charity partner of the BC Lions. Visit bclions.com/worldvision to become a supporter. Pleasure to be heard on 730 CKNW, wherever you get your podcasts. It is a Tuesday. And a reminder, July 8th, a couple of weeks from now, we'll be back on location at Goodco Granville. We'll have Coors Light specials, Smash Burger specials, and we'll be talking football as always. Matt Baker alongside Bob the Moj Marjanovic, voice of the Lions. Nick Kowalski, Vice President of Video and Media.
I was wondering where you're going to go with that. Just the manager.
Manager. There you go. Manager's good. How we doing, fellas? Team is back at it today. We'll talk about some injury news, but Moj, you've had a couple of days to look back. Surely you've rewatched it. Overall impressions of a 27-14 loss to the Blue Bombers.
Well, I know a lot of people were down on the team, and yeah, I mean, you don't want to lose back-to-back games, especially with the second one being at home. I thought defensively, they kind of hung in there. I'm not as hard on the defense or critical of the defense, I don't think, as I would be with the offense. I thought the offense misfired. They didn't seem to get into a rhythm. But, you know, it's interesting. You look at this week's loss and last week's loss, and you compare the stats between the two teams, there's really not that much to choose from, right? But it's like Wally Buono says, and it's something that I talked about afterwards with a couple of people from the organization. Every football game, there's going to be 5 or 6 plays that decide that game. And right now, of those 5 plays, the Lions are losing 4, maybe even 5 of those plays. They're not making those plays when they need to. And as a result, they're coming out with L's instead of W's.
I 100% agree, Moj. Like we talked last week that how important it was for this Lions team to get off hot early. And first drive, Winnipeg goes for 7. That's fine. You have a chance to respond, and the Lions do respond, but it ends in 3 points.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you're in a hole. And then it is a 1-possession game for a while. And then there's that huge momentum score-changing play where Jamal Parker comes up with that lateral pass. And from there, you're chasing the game, and it just felt like what has been happening with these Winnipeg games these past couple of years, where if you get behind, especially with Zach Collaros, and it doesn't really matter who's there at running back. We saw Cooley now pop off a bit for the Bombers, but it's tough to catch these Bombers once you get behind them.
Yeah, Lions, as far as net offense goes, outgaining Winnipeg, right? Something like 323 to 250, something like that, 255. And yeah, like so many times I thought to myself, you know, this game is right there. Christophe Beaulieu makes the late first half interception at 17-3. Okay, even if you get something here, even if you get a field goal and receiving the second half kickoff, but couldn't capitalize, right?
Throw something your way. But even though the Lions are hanging around, do you ever get the feeling they're going to win?
Not necessarily.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, even in that game in Winnipeg, they just kind of hung around. But at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, they're not going to win this game because they're not making that big play when you need it. Right. And even then, I mean, that could have been a 7-point game if Mazzoli hits Hatcher on that fade.
Sure.
Where he overthrows him. Right. I mean, I think Hatcher would have scored on that play, but regardless, it's just they're not getting the big play when they need it. And teams like Winnipeg, winning teams like Winnipeg, that's what they do. That's what they feast on, right? So that, again, you know, you talk about the little things. If Butler makes the catch, or even if Butler is 1 yard ahead of the line of scrimmage, right? It's, you know, maybe it's a drive where the Lions score, and now it's a tie game or within 3 points or whatever. But it just seems right now that those plays aren't going the Lions' way.
No, and you look at it 1 for 4 in the red zone, right? Those are the difference makers. And a red zone turnover, 2 red zone turnovers too, right? You mentioned the end zone ball that was incomplete, and then the Evan Holm play that, and the ground may have helped that ball for Evan Holm to pick it off, but obviously the command center didn't agree with that. And that's the difference in my mind. Like there are positives. Like Keon Hatcher looks like Keon Hatcher.
Absolutely.
On offense, right? James Butler's moving the ball well. I think the 2 tackles, although Dijon Allen is now banged up, but the 2 tackles are giving the quarterback time to throw the ball. The pressure is typically coming from the interior right now.
Well, the pressure is coming from the real pressure is coming from the fact that teams are sending more than the Lions can pick up.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where most of the pressure has come, is when teams are sending 7 and you can only block with 6 or 5 or whatever the number is. And in those situations, the Lions have to do a much better job of executing their hot game. But Winnipeg plays the hot game really aggressively, right? And that's one of the things that, if you're going to come with the blitz, I've always been of the belief that, snug up your DBs on the receivers, because they're going to come hot. And if they do, you're going to be right there to make a play, maybe even undercut a route and get a pick out of it. But, that's one of the things, is that if you do bring the blitz and you bring more than you can pick up, you've got to get rid of the football and you've got to execute.
That's it. So Winnipeg, we will not see them again. The Lions will not anyway, at least until a possible playoff matchup in November. But, have to keep trending upward as this season goes along. The Lions sitting at 1-2, getting ready to face a 3-0 Saskatchewan team on Saturday in Regina. 4 o'clock kickoff pregame here on 7:30 CKNW across the province at the Lions Audio Network at 3 o'clock with Moj and Julio. We will take a deeper dive on this matchup itself a bit later in today's program. Rod Pedersen, one of our longtime friends, a host of the Rod Pedersen Show, covers the Roughriders, has for a number of years. We'll have him on in just a little bit to get a sense of the mood in the land of living skies, Saskatchewan, that is. But first off, I have to touch on some of the injury news of the day. Tuesday practice is all we have to go on, but early indications, if you're wondering about the status of Nathan Rourke, have to be positive. It's going to be fluid. It's going to be day by day. They're going to be careful with it. They'll probably take it right down to the final injury report, at least right again. That'll come out on Thursday. Nathan, though, splitting some first-team reps, was actually out there throwing today. Bob, you were out at practice. Your overall sense on how number 12 looks?
Well, he looked okay, but I think the big thing, and Buck Pierce talked about this in his post-practice availability session, is how's this going to react now, right? I mean, is he going to be okay tomorrow? I think just bringing him along slowly and not pushing things is the best route, and we'll see how this progresses throughout the course of the week. But clearly the Lions are a different team with Nathan Rourke at quarterback. And, you look at the pressure that they're facing right now. You're going into Regina to take on an undefeated Rider team. The week after that, you're taking on a Montreal team that is currently undefeated. And then you're in Edmonton. So 3 road games in a row. And you'd love to get Nathan back as soon as possible. But again, I would err on the side of caution and make sure he's 100%. That'll be something that'll be between Nathan, the doctors, and of course Buck when it's all said and done.
Yeah, and I think we saw them being cautious last week, right? Like if this was a playoff game, or we're in November right now, maybe Nathan is suiting up, right? But there is time, and I thought Michael always said it really well in his post-game media on Saturday, where he straight up said Winnipeg started out 0-4, 2-6, like they went to the Grey Cup. Like there's tons of time left. It's not that cliche where the season doesn't start till Labor Day, but you can't risk losing it all in June just to have Nathan Rourke out there in a week 4 game, right, or a week 3 game. So the team's going to be cautious, and even like the offense moved the ball less because Jeremiah Masoli was still a competent offense. It was just those key plays and those turnovers that was the difference. So Masoli, I think, and Hatcher said it today too, where it's not all Mazzoli's fault. Sometimes it's the offensive line. It's the receiver running the wrong route. You never really know unless you're in the huddle. So with Jeremiah, it's gonna be a tough test. But if it is Jeremiah, they proved last week that they can at least move the ball.
Yeah, if you end up going back to Jeremiah, what in your mind must he work on to be better?
Well, I mean, it's timing, number one. You can have as many practice reps as you want, but nothing duplicates game speed. Right. And for him getting out of the game and getting those reps probably helps him this week if he plays. Probably just like to see a little bit better mechanically in terms of it seemed like he was overthrowing receivers a lot last week.
Yeah.
That seemed to be an issue. So maybe if that is something that, maybe it's a timing issue, maybe it's a footwork issue. I don't know. You'd have to ask a quarterback guru such as, Julio Carapet is a quarterback guru. So maybe ask Julio.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Somebody else, quarterback guy?
Yeah, maybe. I can't think right now.
Neither can I. Anyway, sorry, forehand. I think, that's one of the things you'd like to see from Jeremiah. It's just a little bit more consistency in his throwing.
Is he a Hall of Famer? Anyway.
Everybody's a Hall of Famer except us, Mick.
I've been lobbying for you for a long time.
I don't like the people, so I don't want to go in.
Yeah.
I'll say no.
Too much politics involved, but that's for another podcast for another day. I should stick on injuries here for a couple of more minutes before we bring in Rod Pedersen. Dejon Allen wouldn't be as optimistic here. Of course, left late with a bit of an upper arm injury. Buck Pierce saying that he's going to be reevaluated this week, but would potentially prepare for the starting right tackle to perhaps not be available this week. You saw Chris Slugger out there taking reps in his spot. So that's obviously an area that's going to be worth watching.
That's a big concern. I mean, he was the prized acquisition in this offseason of all the players that the Lions landed, an outstanding offensive lineman of the Toronto Argonauts, winner of the outstanding offensive lineman, 2 years ago?
2022.
2022. So,
23, something like that. Yeah.
Losing him would hurt. But at the same time, it also creates an opportunity. Maybe it's an opportunity for a young player like Il Manning to step into the lineup and show us what he can do. So if he can't play, it's going to create an opportunity for somebody else. And the old adage, next man up, right? So somebody's going to have to clutch up.
Yeah, it's why you sign all these guys in the offseason, bring all these bodies to camp.
Yeah, and on the other side of the ball, too, Jonah Tavai was a DNP with that calf injury he suffered on Saturday. But Marcus Moore seems like he's poised to make his season debut. And that's someone who, when he gets into game action, has made plays, right? Had a couple sacks early in 2024 before sitting out the majority of the season. Josh Woods, don't think he's ready yet. He's coming up on 1 full year from that torn ACL. But that's going to be a big addition.
Maybe another week.
Yeah, and that's going to be a huge addition, right? I think we saw improved play from guys like Ben Hladek, in the run stop game. I thought Robert Carter made some nice plays. You're seeing why he was, anointed a starter from week 1. He got his first career interception and had a key pass breakup too. So the defense is making strides here, and that's if you're looking for positive takeaways, you needed to make an improvement from week 2, and they did, and that's what I'm looking at.
Very well said. Reminder, keep it tuned to bclions.com, daily injury reports, and we'll see what the next couple of days bring as far as Nathan Rourke and a couple of the others we mentioned who missed time during practice. Moj just mentioned it. This team is on the road for 3 straight, but the next home game is a big one. Our annual Watermelon Smash. We're 2-0 in the Watermelon Smash, by the way, right? Just like concert kickoff. The Lions never lose. July 19th, Saturday, 4 o'clock. bclions.com/watermelon smash has all the valid information. Tailgate backyard party presented by PlayNow.com gets going at noon on Terry Fox Plaza. The famous watermelon margaritas are back. You might see Dwayne Vanneau out there smashing watermelons with Craig Reynolds, his Saskatchewan counterpart. Got to get you and Julio out smashing watermelons.
Yeah. No, we wouldn't do that.
UBC.
No, we wouldn't do that because we both come from European backgrounds.
Yes.
And it's just like, we'd sit there and
yeah.
You can't waste the food. Like, what do they do with the extra watermelon that gets smashed?
They do get donated, if I'm not mistaken.
They are getting donated, yes.
Okay.
The Livestock Association,
That's
I
good.
believe.
Give it give it to some wild, some livestock, whatever.
Yeah.
Just there you go.
How good is this? $5 food menu, Dawson's hot dog stand, sections 201, 227 inside, $5 Coors Light beverages, $7.75 kids hot dog combos. This is fun for the whole family. Again, July 19th, get your tickets. This one is going to be a party. And hopefully we'll be talking about a Lions team going for a season series win against Saskatchewan on the 19th. Second of 3 regular season meetings. They'll be back in Regina in late October to wrap up the regular season. But to talk more about this Saturday's matchup, our good friend Rod Pedersen, host of the Rod Pedersen Show. We'll hear Rod's take. What's the mood like in Riderville? 3-0. Saskatchewan has a good history lately when they start a season with 3 straight wins. We'll break it all down with Rod coming up on First and Now on 730 CKNW. And off we go now. We're told to lovely Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. Although I've never been there. It's where we find, actually, I think I drove through there once as a kid, but besides the point, Rod Pedersen is with us, host of the Rod Pedersen Show on Game Plus Network, YouTube, voice of the Moose Jaw Miller Express baseball team as well. Rod, it's good to talk to you. We last saw you at Grey Cup. How you doing?
Good, guys. Good to see you. Looking forward to the game on Saturday, and we're only 40 miles west of Regina. And just so you know, some CFL teams do come stay here on road trips. You might want to think about it. It's a nice little town.
All right. That's
okay. Hold on. If the Lions ever stayed there, you're doing the game for me in Regina, because half the fun of staying in Regina is going to the Hotel Sask and getting old fashioned, the smoked old fashioned. All right.
I echo that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not up to moving to Moose
What
Jaw.
the hell is that?
No.
A shoe shine? What are you talking about? An old fashioned? What is that? Haircut?
It's
What? What is it?
Don't you ever see this guy's Instagram when we're in Saskatchewan? Come on.
Yeah, all I see is his Super Bowl stuff. We can't go any further till you tell me what an old.
Yeah, it's the only time I'm a guest on your show is when you need somebody at the Super Bowl.
Okay, you're hard to get a hold of. Can we get down to business here?
Yes.
Yeah. So give us a scene setter. Riders 3-0. Must be all rainbows and sunshine. What's the mood in Saskatchewan, Rod?
Buddy, Grey Cup hotels are being booked by the Rider Nation, as you know. Trevor Harris missing practice, however, but not a big deal. That's why they signed Jake Mayer, right? So people aren't too concerned about that. They're rolling on the way to the Grey Cup. You guys are nothing more than a speed bump. I do remember that Nathan Rourke, his first career start was here.
Yeah,
right?
Rather unexpectedly, yes.
I remember that very well because I had money on it. I'm like, thanks for telling us, Rick.
Yeah.
But anyways.
You and me both.
Right. Probably neither one of us, in truth. But no, it's going to be big. It's going to be a big crowd. It's going to be nice weather Saturday. Good kickoff time. And listen, there's not a lot to complain about. They're on Brett Lawther's ass, but he always struggles early in the season. This is a big one, as you fellas know.
You know, you look at the Saskatchewan team, a lot of people will talk about certain facets of it. For me, it really starts with that defensive front, Rod.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm looking at that D line that they got. They brought in Mike Rose. Of course, he's got some tread on the tires, but still productive. Habaduke Baldonado, I think, has taken his game to another level. This is a front seven and a defense itself that you have to be very, very careful with because they are so aggressive.
Yeah. And listen, we've been doing this a long time. Do we not feel that the teams take on the personality of their coach? And when you have a D lineman as a head coach, there's a very good chance that's going to be the identity of your team. So the thing is, Moj, nobody talks about that unit here, the front seven or the D line. They should, because that's where a lot of it happens, right? That's where the disruptors are. But that's the personality that Corey Mace wants his team to be. Nasty. And they are nasty. They don't get a lot of prep. We're not even a month into the season, though, right? That's the one thing about 3-0. Early wins can camouflage a lot of things. The Riders have nothing to apologize for, but they're very close to a loss last week in Toronto. Let's not forget.
We know about early wins camouflaging things in BC, but that's a topic for another time back in the day. But if they're not talking about the defensive line in Regina with this 3-0 team and in the province of Saskatchewan, what are they talking about?
They're talking about the offense because offense sells tickets. They're talking about 3 different receivers have had 100-yard games so far this season. They're talking about A.J. Ouellette in the backfield, who got miraculously healthy once Kadeem Carey showed up in town, you know, and Kadeem Carey's been left on the sidelines. They're not dressed at all. All they're talking about is the offense and the fact that Trevor Harris didn't practice this week yet as we sit here and talk about the game. So, but they're still confident, and they think that Jake Mayer can come in and run this offense. But there has not been a lot. And Mario Alford. I mean, it was talked about on my show today, on the Rod Pedersen show. John Ryan was on. You guys know him very well, talking about the last-second win and Luke Wilson trashing the CFLs. A lot of stuff going on in the 3-down league this week, boys.
Rod, the receivers that you mentioned, it seems like Saskatchewan has a factory of just elevating receivers, right? Even a guy like Sean Bain came from Calgary and became a near 1,000-yard guy. MLS, Schaefer Baker. What do you attribute this to? Is it Trevor Harris? Is it offensive coordinator Mark Mueller? Why does Saskatchewan keep having these stud receivers come up?
Well, I think you just answered a lot of it. I mean, Mark Mueller is a savant. And the fact that he is back working for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, I don't think, well, he never has before, but he's from here. Mark is a genius. And to be honest, I was in Niagara Falls last Friday night watching this game on television at an Applebee's of all things, and I see this Myers go up and catch a touchdown. I'm like, who the hell's this guy? Like, it's been 7 years since I've been the voice of the Roughriders, but it's what you're saying, Nick, is kind of almost like plug and play. You know, there are some stalwarts. You mentioned Bain. Mitchell Picton is back for another year, but it doesn't seem to matter who they are. They're all putting up big numbers. I think it was 2 years ago, they had 3,000-yard receivers. So, and Trevor Harris, by the way, assuming he plays, is going for a 7th consecutive win. He is like the Rodney Dangerfield of the CFL. Would you not agree? I mean, you're one of the few teams he hasn't played for, but he just doesn't get respect. But if you watch him live, which you guys have, and Matt, you've watched him at field level, he's all that. He is efficient. He's one of the greats. All he's missing is a Grey Cup.
Rod, to put yourself in Buck Pierce's shoes here. It is sunshine and rainbows, and you're talking about how great this defense is. But if you're Buck Pierce this week, how are you attacking this defense? Where do you think and I guess you can kind of flip this question to where can Saskatchewan still improve on defense, but where are you looking at?
Well, again, it's up top. Nobody has really, in my mind, challenged the secondary yet. And I mean, if Nathan Rourke was a game time decision last week, you guys haven't named your starter yet, have you? Or are we assuming it's Nathan this week?
Well, he's officially limited on Tuesday. Did a lot more work than he did all of last week, Rod. So I'd say it's trending in the right direction, but probably going to play it day by day. Yeah,
okay.
He did split the first team reps on Tuesday, which is a good sign.
Okay, well, there's two things. Number one, we all know Buck. We all love Buck. Speaking of savants, he's the same. But have you heard the BC Lions have a reputation in the CFL of not being that physical? So I would be pounding the ball inside early and see how it goes. And then I would keep pounding the ball. And then when the opportunity arises, I'd hit him deep, because nobody's really done that this year. That's what I would do. I mean, any football team, I would think, Moj, please agree with me on that. If you were told you weren't physical, there's very more hurtful comments you can say about a football team than that.
And, it's one of the things that this new regime has emphasized. It's toughness, it's grit, and, improving play on both sides of the line of scrimmage, whether it's offense and whether it's defense. And, it's funny because I talk to people and people talk to me, what's it going to take to become a winning team and have a winning program? And I always say the same thing. It starts at the line of scrimmage. You can have all the great receivers and running backs and whatever, but if you're not controlling the line of scrimmage, you're not going to win football games. And I think the Lions did a pretty good job last week in terms of the line of scrimmage on defense. Offensively, it was a different story. But Rod, it's interesting. If you look around the league, and I think there was a stat they put out last week, it was the lowest amount of average sacks per game since they started accumulating the sack numbers. And it just seems now like so much of this game is predicated on quick screens, hitches, whatever. They're getting the ball out of the quarterback's hands quickly, right? And the short passing game, and conversely, the yards after catch. And last week, BC had difficulty doing that, and I think it's one of the reasons they had difficulty moving the ball.
Yeah, well, the game notes is one of the highlights of my summer, is reading them when they come out for every single game. And I saw that stat. The other one is that 68% of the scoring's been done in the second half. Did you guys read that one? And again, we put almost way too much emphasis on this stuff in the first month of the season.
Yeah, it's a small sample size.
Right, but it's what we have. So that's what we talk, and I find it absolutely fascinating. But the thing is, when Nick asked, how do you attack this defense? They don't give up much inside. So, I mean, are you brave enough to try it? That's there. But they're going to be pinning their ears back and trying to get at the quarterback. And that's not necessarily run stopping, right? So that's something that I would do. But this is a defense that wants to get after the quarterback on a weekly basis. And if Nathan Rourke's back there, Nathan isn't the most mobile guy. I mean, I would be coming out. I don't feel like he is. Do you guys?
Oh, I would disagree with that.
He can. Yeah, he's
watch the Edmonton game. There was a couple scrambles in there where he was Houdini-like.
But does he want to?
Well, I don't know if he wants to, but he can't.
Yeah.
I don't think any quarterback wants to. They'd rather just sit in the pocket and have the time to throw the football. But if you have to scramble, you have to.
I like how y'all perked up on that there. So, yeah.
No, it's great.
Hey, let me throw a question to you while we got you. And I'm going to take a little bit of a detour here. So what about the fans in Saskatchewan? What's going on with Rider Nation? Because, you've got the new stadium. You've got a 3-0 team right now. What are the numbers going to be like in terms of the attendance? Because so many people have talked about the Riders and the declining attendance and the, I guess, disassociation between some of your fans and the new and the regime there. What's going on?
Well, it's just a difference in philosophy. We're all looking at what you guys are doing, and everybody feels Amar is the best owner in the CFL, and I want him to win a Grey Cup this year or in his ownership because he's doing everything right. Whereas in Saskatchewan, off the field, they're not doing much right at all. Listen, guys, for years, I've been cheering for this team since I was a little kid. If we'd had a 3-0 start on a Saturday with BC coming to town, we're not even talking about ticket sales. It's sold out. So it's a longer conversation, Moj, than we have time for or that I'm comfortable talking about, to be honest. They're just not the Rough Riders that we all grew up with. And on that Thursday night, the home opener was not a good crowd. I don't know what it was. I think it was sub 20,000. And everybody was, oh, it's Thursday. That's a bad night. We travel from across the province. I'm like, okay, we got a Saturday, 5:00. No excuses. And I don't expect a big crowd this Saturday either. All of a sudden, they're still bitching about the vaccine policy from 4 years ago. It'll be gas prices. It'll be we were at the lake. It'll be all these things. So you either want to go or you don't. And to sum it up, the Riders have not given the fans enough reason to go. They don't know who the players are. They don't feel connected to the team. They haven't brought in Snoop Dogg. You know what I mean? There's just not the love affair with the team that we grew up with. And that why the team has fractured that, I don't know, but I haven't been around to find out.
And even we came for the playoff game last year, and even that was kind of surprising to see. I can't remember exactly what the announced crowd was well short of a sellout. And I remember thinking, yeah, that's just an example of how a playoff. Remember, you guys once went almost 20 years without hosting a playoff game, and that first Western semifinal in 2007 was rocking, right? I mean,
88 to 07.
Yeah.
But we also, Matt, sold out the entire season that year.
Sure.
That was just a formality. There wasn't one ticket available all year.
Crazy.
But here's the thing, like you talk about disenfranchising your fans, and this is just a small thing, but to me, it was a big thing. So we're walking around and they're selling 50-50 tickets. As you know, you get there 3 hours before game time. You kind of walk around the concourse, down to field level, talk to the players, coach. So anyway, I'm walking around the concourse, 50-50 tickets. I say, you know what? I'll buy $25 worth. They give me one ticket, one number.
That's it?
That was it. Meanwhile, if you bought $50 worth, you had like 20 numbers or whatever it was. It was like exponentially, way more. And I'm like thinking to myself, you're basically gouging people on a 50-50, right? Because if you buy a $25 ticket, you're not winning anything. You got one number. Meanwhile, the 50, like if you bought a $50 pack, you'd have whatever, 10, 15 numbers, right? And I'm like, this is offside.
Wow,
it's bad.
But that is bad. They do gouge. But here's the other thing. I mean, Matt referenced it, I think, before we went to air here. I live in Florida 9 months out of the year. So living somewhere else and looking back into Saskatchewan, it's pretty cool. Like it's the Alabama of Canada. You guys must enjoy coming there for the atmosphere. It's a really big deal. But John Ryan mentioned it to me today. He goes, it gets a little old when I'm having breakfast at the Hotel Saskatchewan. I'm bothered by fans telling me where to angle my punts or what, you know what I mean? Like it's 24/7, 365. And this team has tried to capitalize on that and gouge it, and people are pushing back. People talk about
so.
Yeah, but I look at the economy. People bring up the economy all the time, and I'm like, I don't know. The Oilers, Jets, Flames are sold out. I don't think it's an economy thing because people are pissed.
And by the way, I got a good John Ryan story for you before we get out of here, so you can use it next time you have him on air.
And before we get to that, speaking of 50-50, speaking of 2007 Western Final, Moj won the 50-50 at BC Place, did he not?
Yeah, I was doing pre and post. And halftime?
Great story.
So I wind up like in the third quarter. I realized I've won the 50-50. I went down to visit one of our sponsors, and I was in the suite when I saw that I had the winning ticket. So then I go back and I cash the ticket. Took me like a quarter to get the check, all of that, right? I'm not even watching the game. So I come back to the booth and I show Julio and Baller the ticket. They announce it on air, right? So now it's getting even crazier. So now the game ends. I'm walking to the Edgewater Casino. And the phone rings, and it's Tom Larscheid. Now, I don't know if you know, but Tom Larscheid, John Shorthouse, won a 50-50 while they were doing a game, right?
I heard the clip.
Yeah, it was sort of. Yeah. Larscheid phones me up my phone because the Canucks were playing right after the Lions were done, right? Like Rogers Arena was right next door. Like it was like a 1 o'clock kickoff for the Lions. Canucks playing 5 or whatever, 6:30 it was. And Larscheid's on the phone. Moj, welcome to the club. Then I go on air. I didn't even watch the second half. I looked over to Suits. I go, Suits, you're carrying the first half until Baller and Julio get here? Because I did not watch any of the second half. So, yeah.
How much? How much?
$43K.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Because
that's like your monthly wage, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Those guys found out while they were on the air, right? They found out they were on the air. They won the 50-50.
Yeah. Well, I found out at halftime, right after the halftime show.
And that was also the game that Wally got into it with my color man, Carm Carturi, and it was national news.
That's right. At the walkthrough the day before, I was just talking on X with a couple of guys about this. Back when walkthrough availabilities were a big-time event, right? That was great era for the CFL.
Oh, really big-time event. Oh, yeah. I don't know if we'll ever go back, but whatever. It was fun at the time.
John Ryan, what do you call?
John Ryan. Remember the Green Bay game where he threw a touchdown pass?
It was a playoff game. Yeah.
NFC Championship.
Playoff. So anyway, I walk up to Ryan. I walk up to him in the Seahawks dressing room after. I go, hey, John. I go, congrats. I go, you're only 114 behind Mark Rippon for the most touchdown passes by a Canadian-born player in the NFL. He looks at me. He deadpans. Yeah, but I'm tied with Jesse Palmer.
So he knew that's John. You can't get him.
No,
you can't get him.
He's a great guy. And of course, we knew him when he was down in Seattle and always willing to accommodate us.
Well, thank you guys. Good luck on Saturday. If I'm anywhere near the press box, I'll look you up.
Yeah, let's plan a meetup, plan a selfie for the old Instagram, and great to have you back north of the 49th, my friend. Keep up the great work. Rod Pedersen show every day, Game Plus Network, YouTube. I see the clips on Facebook, X. You're all over the place. You got the social media map covered, my friend. So,
thank you. You guys too. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, good on you for keeping it going, and we'll see you this weekend, sir.
Thanks for the support, guys. Good talking.
Thanks, Rod.
Likewise.
Take care, Rod.
The BC Lions take on the Saskatchewan Roughriders Saturday, July 19th at 4 p.m. It's the biggest rivalry party of the year with the Watermelon Smash. This year, you get in on the smashing. Happening live on Terry Fox Plaza starting at noon. Tickets start at just $19. Don't miss it. Visit bclions.com and get ready to roar as one!
Back on First and Now. Pleasure to be here. Matt Baker alongside Bob the Moj Marjanovic and Nick Kowalski. Good fun there with Rod Pedersen. Some pretty good insight as always. And I love that John Ryan story. You never told me that one.
No,
I don't think.
Yeah, it was quite the laugh. And his wife's a comedian too, eh? John Ryan's wife.
Oh, did not know that.
Yeah, I can't remember her name, but she's like a very popular comedian. I should remember her name. You know what? While you talk, I'm going to Google it on my phone.
So years ago at the old radio station we used to work at, I think it was Team 1040 at the time, John Ryan and Seneca Wallace came in for a segment, and so I'll never forget meeting those two guys at the time.
Kelowna.
That's John's wife.
Yes.
There you go.
And she's a comedian. She's very well known in the States.
Tell you, I mean, the Seahawks don't make it to a second straight Super Bowl without John Ryan and that fake to start the comeback against Green Bay. And great stories all around. All right, Lions Roughriders, of course, as we bring it back to the present day, first of 3 regular season meetings. What's one key area you're looking at here, Moj?
We touched on it, line of scrimmage, right? For me, it's continuing to play at that level that they did on the defensive side, barring perhaps the first drive against Winnipeg, and then getting some help from the offense, right? And getting an offense that's moving the ball, putting up some points on the board, and hopefully making other teams one-dimensional. And that's, people look at great defenses sometimes. Oh, the defense played great. Well, defense is playing great because the offense is up 2 touchdowns on the other team and forcing them into being a one-dimensional team and trying to move the ball through the air. So it's, you always hear complementary football.
Yep.
But that's one of the big keys with defense. If your offense is rolling, and same thing with specials, right? I mean, it's one thing to go out onto the field when the other team has a 1st and 10 at their own 45-yard line, and if you gave up 1 or maybe 2 first downs, it's going to cost you at least a field goal. Whereas if you have a team that's pinned down at the 5-yard line, I mean, really good defenses, great defenses, at that point smell blood. They want to get the ball back and score, never mind, getting a 2-and-out or a 3-and-out, whatever the case may be. So for me, it's playing complementary football and, all three units kind of coexisting and helping each other out.
Another big storyline in this game, though, is the quarterback matchup is not solidified by any means now, because we talked about the Rourke and Mazzoli splitting reps in BC here today, but Trevor Harris listed as a DNP on Saskatchewan's day one injury report with a head and an illness issue. So that's a big deal. And then also with Trevor's weapons, Samuel Emil is still not practicing. Keyshawn Johnson missed today, although it was personal. We talked about it with Rod, where Saskatchewan just seems to find offensive weapons year in, year out, Johnson being one of the latest ones they've discovered here. But, BC's halfbacks, we talked about that. They're younger now with Jalen Edwards Cooper and Ronald Kent Jr. They have a lot more speed. Don't have the same size maybe in years past, but to keep up with these Riders speedsters, we saw Deontay Myers' 80-yard touchdown last week. That's going to be a key area too. And then even up front, right? If AJ Ouellette's clicking at 7 yards a carry, that's going to put in the defense in some tough situations, whether it's Harris or Jake Mayer, whoever back at quarterback. So, we got to stop AJ early and, limit those big plays, because Saskatchewan, they're well over 30 points a game right now. They're clicking on all cylinders on offense, no matter who's in there in the 12 guys. So, that you got to stop that unit too, especially in the road game scenario. It's key to, not get behind early.
Yeah, we talked earlier about some uncertainties on the defensive line with no Jonah Tavai at practice. Maybe Marcus Moore steps into the interior, and that's going to be a big test containing that running game for Saskatchewan.
I was going to say very quickly,
yeah,
a big difference in the run game last week. I think that really helped out with Sione Tuihema and the way he plays the run. And a lot of times, it's not about tackles. It's about just canceling your gap and, forcing guys to bubble or forcing them to cut back the other way. You might not necessarily make the tackle, but a lot of times you're the guy that's responsible for making the play.
Thibaut Debaya, I thought, was very noticeable in the run game too. And even a guy like Dwayne Hendricks, quietly, I think, has been paying off as a free agent addition. A sack in each game this season, has made some run stops too. I think he's combining well with Thibaut in that interior, and the hustle's there. And it's Coach Randy Melvin, he's definitely hard on these guys in practice, was hard on them in camp, and you're seeing it pay off.
Yeah, the ultimate tactician is Coach Randy Melvin, definitely playing dividends. On the other side of it, talking about line of scrimmage running, this to me is a game where it would behoove them to get James Butler more involved. Time of possession against Winnipeg, again, almost dead even, considering how lopsided it seemed on the scoreboard, highlighting the fact that the Lions missed some opportunities. How big of a discussion do you think getting JB more involved is going to be this week?
Well, I think getting him involved and getting into manageable downs and distances, right? You always hear about coaches staying on schedule. Get into a 2nd and 3 or 2nd and 4, 2nd and 2. Life's a lot easier when you are on schedule as an offense than it is when you're at 2nd and 10 or 1st and 15 or 2nd and 12. So again, we touched on it earlier about, making teams one-dimensional, and that's something that you don't want to occur when you have the football, that you become a one-dimensional team.
Man, and then for all those lovers of the wide receiver DB matchups, Keon Hatcher and Roland Milligan seem like they're going to be going head-to-head a lot in this game, and saw Roland, he was obviously the most outstanding defensive player a season ago, already has a pick 6 to his name this year. And then Keon Hatcher, not much separation maybe last week from Keon Hatcher, but didn't matter because it was double coverage or whatever. Keon is coming down with football. So that's going to be a big matchup. And then that kind of frees up maybe a guy like Justin McInnes to get a little more involved. Justin, he's quietly been
just going to say,
numbers up. We've become accustomed to Justin McInnes taking over football games, and could be due time.
Yeah, let's get number 18 going. It's only a matter of time, you think, until then. So again, we'll monitor the quarterback situation day by day, but go down memory lane a bit too. We've talked a lot about Nathan Rourke and that crazy 2022 season, or half season, if you will. Remember a couple of those games on the road, Calgary, Saskatchewan, where he performed extremely well. The first game in Saskatchewan, of course, who can forget that? They fell behind early. That has to be some of your most memorable filming games, Nick, right? Is that fair to say?
Might have to get Lucky White at a 1-day contract to get every game he gets a 80-yard touchdown on Mosaic. It felt like we had him a go route. Although I think it was every time it was on Nick Marshall, so maybe that's gone in the past. But yeah, a lot of memorable moments there. I'm sure Nathan probably won't admit this, but it's got to be an emotional setting to go to, right? Even a season ago, that's where a season ended, where he got benched, right? It's where he had the Liz Frank injury, but it is where he started his first game and everything. So a lot of monumental moments for Nathan Rourke at Mosaic Stadium, and see what the next one brings.
Moj, what's another major key for you before we get on with trivia?
Well, it's, we touched on a little bit about special teams. I mean, you've got to do a really good job on Mario Alford. We saw what he can do. We've seen what he's done, during his time in the Canadian Football League. So he's a weapon that can flip the field position rather quickly, and even put points on the board. So for me, the Lions coverage units are going to have to play big. And we saw last week, Seven McGee had a couple of opportunities where you think maybe if he got another block or two, he might have been able to do something special. So maybe the Lions are getting closer as well.
And the Carl Meyer, like we've talked about his booming leg, right? He's averaging nearly 50 yards a punt, but the Lions are still kind of in the middle of the league in terms of net average, because there kind of is longer return opportunities available. So against a guy like Alford, giving him a lot of space is going to be that could be an issue. We saw it last week in Toronto, so it's up to the cover team, to shore that up this week.
Yeah, and we saw in Winnipeg a couple of weeks ago just how the kick cover units, if that's not on, it could spell disaster. A lot of times, Winnipeg that week benefiting from some very solid field positions. So these are all, Moj used the term a few minutes ago, complementary football. That's going to be a major key in this one. As the Lions look to get back to 500, and it's a tough stretch. Regina, Montreal, Edmonton, 3 consecutive road trips before we're back home for the Watermelon Smash. We talked about it earlier. Lions will see the Rough Riders again at Save on Foods Field at BC Place on the 19th of July. We wrap it up with trivia as First and Now continues on 730 CKNW and the Lions Audio Network. First and Now continues. Great to be here. Matt Baker alongside the Moj and Nick Kowalski, and it's that time from Regina to Revelstoke. Kowalski's world famous trivia.
Revelstoke, I like that.
Yeah, we're going nationwide.
Driven through it many times.
Mm-hmm. We're going nationwide this week, though. Obviously, Canada Day weekend, no better place to be, well, other than home, but no better place to be than Regina. They'll probably have that big Canadian flag out for the game, right? So,
always.
This week, we're going across the CFL, though. So I've made a little graphic here.
Okay.
We'll talk it out, though, for the audio and radio listeners. But the last 25 most outstanding Canadian winners in the CFL. So if you look at my laptop here, Moj and Baker, I have the teams for each year. So you'll see Winnipeg for 2024, Winnipeg 2023, BC 2022, and so on. So there's your hint for the players. Baker, I'll give you the floor. Take a guess at any players on this board.
Well, we'll start with 2024. It's Brady Oliveira.
Brady Oliveira is 2024, correct.
I don't know. Go ahead.
I'll let you go first next week.
All right.
And you can take any year here.
Any year you want. You don't have to go in chronological order. So last 25 most outstanding Canadians in the CFL. Yes, you got a lot of BC logos. What year are you going for Bola Cumbo?
It was 2021.
21 is Bola Cumbo. Baker, you're up.
2022, Nathan Rourke.
Correct.
Go ahead.
So you have the last 25 years. 2010 is the Rough Rider on this board. There's one Rough Rider that is won.
Andy Fantus.
Andy Fantus, Baker. I think Baker might crush this one. All right, let's keep going.
2012.
See you guys.
2012.
How long does this go back till?
1999.
Sean Millington in the mix?
Sean Millington is 2000.
Brent Johnson?
Brent Johnson. I won't make you guys go years because do you think it's going to be too hard if I make you guys go by years?
Too hard. I can't even remember what I had.
Brent Johnson is 06 and 05. So there's a couple more BC lines there, though.
2009.
That is a BC Lion.
Yeah. Brent Johnson?
Incorrect.
Yeah.
No, right position though.
Yeah. Oh, is that Westerman?
Nope.
Yeah.
Good career, Grey Cup champion.
Yeah. God, that's no good. We'll come back to that.
Yeah, I'll come back to that. So you got a bunch of 3 times in a row a Calgary Stampeder won it.
John Cornish.
John
Cornish is that guy. 2014. In my opinion, John Cornish is the best running back I've ever seen live.
Yeah.
You just ask him.
Yes. Was it Brady in 2023 too?
Brady is a back-to-back winner of this award. Yes, it's 2023. So you're missing
2018.
That's an Ottawa Red Black.
Lewis Ward.
Incorrect.
I was going to go with Lewis Ward too.
Think of a skill player for this one. For there's 2 Red Blacks.
Brad Sinopoli.
Brad Sinopoli is both 2018 and 2015.
Yeah.
So you're missing 17, 16, 19, 11. Still a couple of BC Lions.
2004, Jason Claremont.
Jason Claremont is he's not only 2004, he's also 2007. So Jason Claremont, there you go.
So we're just missing, for as far as the Lions go, 2009.
Yep.
Defensive line, you say? Give me a hint. Yeah.
Played for the Argos after.
Ricky Foley.
Ricky Foley, 2009. 11 and 16, it's Edmonton and Calgary, the logos, but it's the same player.
11 and 16.
17, you guys should know this guy, all-time player for Winnipeg.
Andrew Harris,
2017. 19, we saw him on the weekend. He was here
on the weekend.
From Montreal. He played for the Alouettes, played for a couple other teams, but we saw him on the weekend here in
David Sanchez.
2019.
No, he probably still Enoch Mwamba.
Is 2019 from Montreal. Running back for 15 or for 16 and 11, it's a running back. Calgary, Edmonton.
Oh man,
he was a bruiser.
Messam.
Yeah, Jerome Messam.
Messam.
You probably remember from that playoff game.
Yeah.
Bad memories there.
I think Calgary just scored another touchdown in the 2016.
So here's what we're missing. We're missing 08, 03, 02, 01, and 99.
99, I'm going to take a wild guess here. Can I do that?
Yeah, go for it.
Mike O'Shea.
Mike O'Shea.
Nice.
The correct answer. The most outstanding Canadian in 1999.
You're not cheating here. Yeah.
No, you're not cheating. So you got 01, 02, 03, and 08. 03, 02, and 08 are an offensive player. 01 is a defensive player.
01's a defensive player.
Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Give me initials.
Let's probably give it away. Hey, you guys cross paths sometimes. How about that for a hint?
I cross paths with him, or Bake's cross paths.
Moj would cross paths. Well, I guess Baker a little bit too in the professional field nowadays.
You said defense?
Yep.
So not Milt Stiegel.
Nope.
He's not Canadian anyway.
Winnipeg. He's a Winnipeg defensive player.
Yep.
Oh, Doug Brown.
Doug Brown. Yeah. So you guys are cross paths.
So we're just missing 02 and 03 Montreal Alouettes.
And 08.
Sean White.
Good guess, but no. Close.
Initials.
How about it was a good receiver. That probably gives it away.
Not Ben Cahoon. He's like
Ben Cahoon.
He's
302.
He's a Canadian. Yeah, there you go.
I thought Ben Cahoon is American, but he played in the States, but he was a Canadian.
So you're missing a receiver from 2008 from Edmonton.
Oh man,
most of us sounding Canadian.
Kowalski Peterson.
I guess. You guys do that.
There you go.
I gave you some hints, but you cleared the board.
There you go.
Last 25.
Bakes cleared the board. I was just tagging along.
Now, Moj had a couple of good ones there.
But Mike O'Shea was a good one. I thought that would be a good wrinkle.
Yeah, because I remember, late 90s, he was kind of going back and forth, Toronto, Hamilton. I think he had 2 stints in each place. Like he went back and forth.
Blew me away. We were on a trip, I think, last year to Ottawa.
Yep.
And I just wondering, where are we in Canada right now, right? And I look down and see like this city by a lake.
So we're flying, yeah.
Of course we're flying. Yeah. We're over North Bay. And then I Googled North Bay. Mike O'Shea's hometown, North Bay, Ontario. Flew right over it, right over our flight path.
Is there Canuck goalie Alex Auld? Is he from North Bay?
He might be right.
There you go.
Manitoba Moose goalie. Yeah, I remember Alex Auld growing up.
Yeah. Used to love watching him. So there you go. Canadian talent. It's obviously the lifeblood of the organization, so to speak. And with everything going on right now, I know everyone takes pride in being Canadian and local, and that's a nice little
What's the stat that we saw from Steve Daniel? I think this week it was like 38% of the yardage accumulated in the CFL has been by Canadians, which is like at an all-time high.
That high? Okay.
Well, I liked watching the game back too on Saturday, and kudos to a guy like Matthew Pedersen, obviously making the most of his opportunity for Winnipeg. But during a sit down with Farhan before the game, he just said, "Yeah, I want everybody to know that Canadians can run the rock," and I love the mentality. You can tell he's just a hard nosed guy and wants to rep his country. So it's cool to see. And the Philpott brothers right now are going crazy. So
yep.
It's an awesome time right now in the league.
Reminds me, I had to give Moj a copy of the guide and record book just came in with the Philpott brothers on the cover. I'll present that to you here shortly. All right, Saturday, pregame, 3 o'clock Pacific. Yourself and Julio on 7:30 CKNW right here and across the province at the Lions Audio Network. We'll be on the ground in Regina. Be tuned to our YouTube channel, bclions.com. Hopefully some winning post-game content, and bring it on. Always love going to Saskatchewan.
Jewel of the prairies, baby. The jewel of the prairies.
Our favorite spot on the prairies.
Favorite spot on the prairies.
All right, First and Now will be back next week across the Lions Audio Network. So long on 7:30 CKNW.
BC Lions versus Roughriders, Saturday, July 19th at 4 p.m. It's the biggest rivalry party of the year with the Watermelon Smash on Terry Fox Plaza. Tickets start at just $19 at bclions.com. Roar as one!
All right, and for those listening on the podcast, we continue with a little Between the Lines action. Our good friend Cam Tucker from BCLC and PlayNow.com is with us. Well, Cam, I'll tell you what, if based on early indications here, we could hopefully be looking at an upset. These Lions opening as a 5.5 underdog at Saskatchewan, and the Riders winning all 3 games and covering the spread in the process this year, right? So take us through that one.
Yeah, so the BC Lions, they opened, like you said, Matt, 5.5-point underdogs on the road in Saskatchewan. That has since come down just a little bit, down to 5 points now. And I do wonder, if we start to see news that Nathan Rourke might start, what does that do for the line? I'd imagine that it might come down a little bit as we get closer to kickoff, depending on the quarterback news. And it looks like reports that he was out of practice today. So definitely good news. Hopefully continues to trend in the right direction. And that could impact the Lions going forward. Like you said, Matt, the Saskatchewan Roughriders off to a really good start this year, 3-0 straight up, but they're also 3-0 against the spread. And in all 3 of those matchups, they were the favorite. For the Lions, they have their work cut out for them this week. You go into Saskatchewan, it's going to be a raucous crowd, as we know it always is. And now for the BC Lions, it's time to try to put a win on the board here, because they, the last 2 games against Winnipeg, they've had a difficult time. Nobody's going to feel sorry for them. So you got to come out here and, try to get an upset win, like you said. And, it's interesting because we talked at the start of the season about this. The Lions win total at the start of the season was over under 9.5. And the odds makers at the time, seemed confident based on the odds that the over would hit. And now but we did say that the first 6 or 7 weeks would definitely be the most difficult part of their season. And you get Winnipeg back to back. You have Winnipeg on a short week. And now you go into Saskatchewan, and the Roughriders look pretty good. They're a pretty exciting football team. They get that late win on that kickoff return in Toronto last week. So, yeah, it's going to be a difficult test for the Lions here. But we knew kind of going into the start of the season, the first 6 or 7 weeks would definitely be the most difficult on their schedule.
Cam, we all know it. Availability is your best ability. That's a sports cliche, but talk to me about what that's done for Nathan Rourke being unavailable last week for the Lions and Trevor Harris being available for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and what that's all done for their MOP odds.
Yeah, we've seen the MOP odds kind of fluctuate through the first, 3 weeks of the season. Nathan Rourke had that great performance in week 1 and kind of moved up to the top of the ladder. The week 2 against Winnipeg was definitely a more difficult test. They were able to air the ball out, in the second half, and Nathan Rourke picked up some yardage. But obviously being unavailable last week for the Lions, his MOP odds dropped all the way down to plus 900. So he's about 4th or 5th right now on the list of players for that award. Trevor Harris, meanwhile, he's moved up to plus 600. He's tied with Zach Caleros for the second best odds to win the most outstanding player. It's really interesting going into this week because Trevor Harris is kind of getting more of the headlines, obviously, with his play. He's been very good, but second in the league in passing yards, 5 touchdown passes, 3 interceptions, which, I'm sure every quarterback would like to reduce that number. But, I kind of expect, Trevor Harris has been good, but I'm starting to look at that run game for Saskatchewan, and I think that that's been a key to their success. AJ Ouellette, back-to-back games in which he's rushed for 90 yards or more. And when you can run the ball in the Canadian Football League or the NFL or college or wherever it might be, if you can run the ball successfully, that's usually going to mean that the quarterback is going to have success too, because you have to defend against that run game. It opens up so much in the passing game. And so Trevor Harris, he's been very good and moved up to second or tied for second with Zach Claros for the MOP odds.
All right, Keon Hatcher off to a hot start, leads the CFL at 294 yards receiving. So he's on pace to smash his preseason over-under of 950.5.
Yeah, what a start to the season that he's had. And, it's so nice for him coming off of that Achilles injury, almost 2 years ago, comes back in the lineup last year. I thought he did pretty good when he got back into the lineup. It's never easy to come back from an Achilles injury, or any sort of ACL or tear like that. Any serious, significant injury is going to set you back. He's been very good this year. And I think the one thing that we're taking note of is the explosive plays down the field. He's got, looking at the stats today, he's got the longest reception in the CFL season so far at 77 yards. And he's got 3 plays of 30 yards or more through the air. And that's, among the league leaders as well. So he's off to a great start. Definitely getting that share of the targets right now. I believe it's 21 targets in his last 2 games. So he's having a really good season. Knock on wood, he keeps this up. But like you said, Matt, right now he's on pace to smash the over 950.5 that was at the start of the season, which was an interesting line. It's very difficult for 2 teams to essentially support 2,000-yard receivers, and I would say that Justin McInnis is probably on his way to that number as well. So those are the 2 guys. If you're going to air the ball out, those are the 2 guys that you need going the most.
And Cam, so has the recent success of Keon Hatcher, has that got him into your week 4 bet boost on PlayNow.com?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're trying some things here for sure, but yeah, I like Keon Hatcher 50 plus receiving yards, and we're going to parlay that with Justin McInnis 50 plus receiving yards. And I kind of broke it down. We're starting to see that target share really pick up. The explosive plays are really working for him, and the fact that he's the league leader in receiving yards. So I definitely think that he's going to hit 50 plus receiving yards in this game. And you look at the other side of that, Justin McInnis starting to round into form, right? We saw in 2024, he burst onto the scene. And this year, he has that week 1 game where maybe he's a little bit quiet until the second half. And then we start to see him put in the work and get the production. But back-to-back weeks for Justin McInnis, in which, he's combined for, I think it's 20 targets in the last 2 games, starting to see his production really go up. And look at what he's done to Saskatchewan in the past. Look at last year. He had in week 6, I think it was, he had 14 targets, 14 catches for over 240 receiving yards. That's absolutely ridiculous. They followed that up later in the season against the Riders. He had 6 catches for 119 yards. So he's had the Roughriders number last season. He's a former Saskatchewan Roughrider as well. He may have gotten the revenge game out of his way last year, but definitely I still think that he's going to be super pumped up for this game. So I do like these 2-star receivers, Keon Hatcher, 50 plus receiving yards, and Justin McInnis, 50 plus receiving yards. And we'll look for the boost on site at PlayNow Sports in our odds boost section, probably on Friday.
Hey, I'll say for Justin McInnis, it's definitely personal when he goes back to play the Roughriders, the team that drafted him and the team that ultimately let him come over to BC. So he's our prize. So
that's
looking forward to seeing Justin there on Saturday.
You know what though, going back to it, you have to beat a team in which a fan base puts watermelons on their heads. That's it, right? So yeah, it's a big game. Looking forward to it, and we'll see how the lines move throughout the week if there's news on Nathan Rourke too.
Yeah, the whole watermelon thing. It is.
That's a good promo for the watermelon smash.
It's Saskatchewan. What else is there to do? So we'll do it again next week, my boy. All right, excellent stuff with Cam Tucker, putting a bow on a pretty energetic episode. I love this today. High energy. I love Rod Pedersen, and Just something about Saskatchewan week always gets the juices flowing.
Yeah, and it took this long. It took till Between the Lines from Cam Tucker to bring up the fact that, yeah, Justin McInnes, 243 yards in that Watermelon Smash game against the Riders last year. So Justin, he rises to those big games. And like we were saying earlier, it's definitely, it takes it a little personally when he plays those Rough Riders.
Lions, Rough Riders, yeah, and that's good. Anything to fuel the beast, so to speak, right? Lions, Riders, Saturday, 4 o'clock, 7:30 CKNW, pregame at 3, and we'll be back on First and Now 1 week from now ahead of a big matchup, another big road trip looming in Montreal. First and Now, wherever you get your podcast, be sure to subscribe, rate, leave a review, and we'll talk to you in a few days.